Urvi, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this very special evening at the Goethe-Zentrum Hyderabad, or GZH for short. Now, many of you may already know GZH is the city's premier German language and cultural center. We recently celebrated 20 years in the city. So 2 decades of creating space for language, art, music, exhibitions, workshops, conversations, and ideas that are always thoughtful, diverse, accessible, and open to absolutely everyone. If you're not already a part of our community, I invite you to sign up on our mailing list. The forms are circulated. And find us on Instagram so that you can stay updated on our programs that happen throughout the year. Now, today's event is particularly special. And before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on why we've gathered here this evening. The past few days have reminded us of the values on which this great nation of ours was built: dialogue, debate, and democracy. As a historian, I think deeply about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi, how they disagreed with each other profoundly, yet both recognized that meaningful debate and civility towards one another are essential to a healthy democracy. These are the values that we're committed to at the GZH. We believe disagreement and debate is not something to fear. It's necessary for the growth of an individual, city, or nation. And we must try to accompany it with some respect, openness, the willingness to listen, and as we've learned all too well in the past couple of days, even a sense of humor. As we think about the future of our beloved city, which is why all of us are gathered here today, it's also worth remembering one of the more forgotten values of the preamble of our Indian Constitution: fraternity, a kinship with one another, and the many diverse citizens of our city. So as we continue to build our city, lest we forget, we share it not only with one another, but with other species too, an extraordinary and rich biodiversity. To me, this is one of Hyderabad's greatest treasures, and I hope it remains at the heart of how we imagine and build our cities. With this, I'd like to very sincerely thank our distinguished panelists for being with us this evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this very important conversation. And to all the citizens gathered here tonight, and I see some friends from the press as well, a very heartfelt thank you. Your presence in such numbers is a powerful reminder that all of us, we deeply care about the future of our city and our country. So the willingness to come together, to listen, to ask questions, and engage in democratic civic dialogue is one of the greatest gifts we can offer our city. Just a few quick points of housekeeping. This panel will run for around 60 minutes, followed by Q&A. I invite all of us to participate in the same spirit of respect, curiosity, and thoughtful conversation. Our hope is that this evening sparks not just a discussion, but an enduring path towards better shared futures. I also request that all of you please keep your phones on silent out of respect for our panelists and the people next to you. Second, you may have noticed an exhibition on display around you. These are photographs taken by citizens. Please take a few moments to look at them. The exhibition will be on view right here till the 17th of August. And third, we have a notice board that we've kept here, along with small notes made from reused paper. But each of you is welcome to write down your thoughts, whatever they may be, and stick it on the notice board before you leave tonight. Finally, it is my pleasure to introduce the moderator of this evening's session, Natasha Ramaratnam. Natasha is a development sector professional with over 25 years of experience across the corporate and social sectors. For the past several years, she's worked independently to advocate for climate action and frequently contributes articles on social, environmental, and gender-related issues to leading publications, and also serves on the core committee of the Hyderabad Literary Festival. Everyone, a huge round of applause for yourselves for being here today, and also for Natasha, who will lead this evening's discussion. Thank you, Natasha. The floor is yours.
It is an honor and a privilege to be asked to moderate this session. Um, all of us in Hyderabad care about the city. We want this to be one of the best cities in the world, not just in India. And we are all, in different ways, quite disturbed by the fact that the traffic infrastructure is something that's becoming so predictable. All these times when I would speak to people in Bangalore, we would debate Hyderabad versus Bangalore, and it would always end with, but Hyderabad has brilliant traffic. And that always was the clincher for Hyderabad being the best city in the country. Unfortunately, now, the only thing predictable about the traffic is becoming its unpredictability. And I know that even today, many of us buffered in half an hour, 1 hour, and a whole lot of time to ensure that we come here, reach on time. And I sincerely thank all of you for making the effort and coming here. So the reason we decided to have this photo exhibition started with this photograph you see out here. It's an image which most of us are very familiar with. It's a Raidurg flyover. Now, when the metro came up, and more importantly, when that flyover came up, most of us thought traffic problems are sorted. Unfortunately, this is a fairly common occurrence in the Raidurg flyover, and not just during the monsoons. And when we look at an image like this, we wonder if instead of each of those cars, if there were just 3 buses, all of those people could be transported, and at the same time, there would be no real traffic jam. That was really the genesis for this. How can Hyderabad move people and not vehicles? And we are extremely privileged that the two people in the government who really have the future of Hyderabad in their hands are both here. Because while citizens and traffic experts can talk and debate, it is largely in an ecosystem that we function. But to be able to have a constructive dialogue between citizens and the people who determine policy and implement policy is indeed a privilege, and it's a huge thank you to Goethe-Zentrum Hyderabad for making it happen. With that, I would just like to introduce the rest of the panelists. We always say certain people need no introduction, but Jayesh Ranjan is one person who needs absolutely no introduction. I will all the same read out just a small part of what he does. Jayesh Ranjan is a distinguished member of the 1992 Indian Administrative Service batch and the All India topper in his year. He currently serves as a Special Chief Secretary to the Government of Telangana for the Metropolitan Area and Urban Development Department and the Sports Department. Jayesh Ranjan is known for his role in shaping the state's technology ecosystem, investment promotion, urban development, tourism, and sports policy. His administrative experience spans over 30 years across governance, economic development, and public policy. In his current role, he is also actively involved in promoting sports development and youth engagement initiatives across the state. As Special Chief Secretary, he is heading the administrative re-engineering of the Telangana core urban region. This involves the trifurcation of the GHMC into 3 entities: the core GHMC, the Cyberabad Municipal Corporation, and the Malkajgiri Municipal Corporation. And he serves as a special officer in all 3 to ensure a unified transition. He's also facilitating the development of the 4th city via the Future City Development Authority. His academic background is equally prestigious, holding a master's degree. Yes. Our second panelist is Shri R.V. Karnan, IAS. Karnan is an Indian Administrative Service Officer of the Telangana cadre and currently serves as a commissioner of GHMC. Prior to joining the IAS, he served in the Indian Forest Service, bringing together a unique blend of expertise in environmental stewardship, public policy, and governance. Over the course of his public service, he has held several key leadership positions across district administration, tribal development, public health, and urban governance. As Commissioner of GHMC, he's been leading initiatives focused on strengthening urban governance, enhancing municipal service delivery, and promoting sustainable urban development. He has also championed innovative citizen-centric initiatives that leverage technology and collaborative governance to improve the efficiency, transparency, and responsiveness of urban administration. Thank you for joining us. Our next panelist is Prashant Kumar Bachu. Prashant is a transport policy and transit operations specialist with over 20 years of experience helping governments and public transport agencies improve bus systems through better planning, operations, governance, and technology. He's played key advisory roles in bus rapid transit implementation, intelligent transport systems, and institutional reforms that have improved service quality for over 500,000 daily passengers while enabling significant gains in operational efficiency and financial sustainability. He is the author of several influential publications on public transport modernization and is currently leading the development of the National Public Transport Interface, an initiative to standardize and accelerate digital transformation of public transport in India. Welcome, Prashant. Our final panelist is Professor Anjali Lal Gupta. Anjali is an assistant professor teaching journalism at the Sarojini Naidu School of Arts and Communications, University of Hyderabad. She was a journalist for over 16 years in television, digital media, and development communications. At CNBC TV 18 in New Delhi, she was a correspondent and feature producer for over 6 years. As web editor and images manager for ActionAid, she researched, wrote, and edited features for their website and publications. She also contributed to online and print newspapers and magazines, including The Wire, Tehelka, The Hindu, The Times of India. Her areas of interest include journalist safety, women's empowerment, environmental justice, and animal rights protection and welfare. Welcome, Anjali. We will, like Urvi has mentioned, have a discussion among the panelists for about an hour, after which we will be throwing it open to questions. This is a unique opportunity for us to hear from the policymakers and the policy implementers, and also learn from traffic experts and urban policy experts on what really goes into the city. As citizens, we all have complaints, but many of those are probably not things which are in anybody's control. So we will start the panel discussion now. And I'm just reiterating what Urvi said. This is a dialogue. So let's keep it respectful. There are ways to engage, and let's do it in the sense of something that is good for everybody. So the way we will structure the presentation is we will give 5 minutes to each of the speakers to make some general remarks, and I will also ask a couple of questions to lead them in doing it. And after the first round, we will have another round of questions which are mostly arising from what was discussed in the first round. After which, if necessary, we will have some interaction between us before we throw it open to the public. I would start with you, Jayesh. As the person who is in charge of policy for Hyderabad, and as somebody who really holds the future of the city in your hands, could you give us some idea of how we are looking to get to a city which does not have to face traffic jams every day, where people can have a better quality of life, not just people, but also non-human species, and how we balance urban sustainability, the needs of a city, and environmental requirements. Over to you, Jayesh.
Sure. So, thank you very much, Natasha, and greetings to all the fellow panelists. Greetings to everyone in the audience. I would also like to kind of pick on one very important comment which Natasha made and Urvi also mentioned. Let us use this platform for constructive dialogue. Let us not get into a mode of blame game. See, it's very common. I've attended many such discussions in the past also. And I have seen that it takes no time for this whole thing to get vitiated. Like this government failed to do its duty, this politician is corrupt, this official is hand in gloves with someone, and this and that. So it may be true. I'm not here to defend anyone. Whatever you feel about these things must be 100% true. But let us look at this opportunity as a very useful platform to get good ideas, good suggestions. See, the extent of the problem is known to everyone. It is not to say that till we saw these pictures, we had no understanding of how traffic flows, etc., etc. Many of us also have a very intuitive understanding about the solutions. It is again not rocket science to think of what the solutions could be. But what really requires a very deep examination is that despite knowing the details of the problem, despite knowing what potentially can work or would have worked in some other city, in some other part of the country, why is it that we have not been able to really overcome those barriers and challenges? So let us get in science and technology. There's a concept which is called root cause analysis. So let us get into that. Let us get into that level. And I'm not saying that the discussion should complete in or conclude in this 1 hour itself. Whatever best we can wrap up in this 1 hour, let us do that. But I'll be very happy to engage with all of you continuously at the end of the session. I'll be very happy to share my personal phone number also. You can continue to kind of share your good ideas, observations, solutions, so that let it become a kind of a continuous flow of implementable ideas. So that is one. I mean, that is a opening kind of a caveat which I wanted to mention. The second part on why implementable ideas have not really been prioritized so far and what can happen in the coming few days. So I see this as a very opportune time. I mean, this is an extremely useful time for us to have this kind of a discussion for three reasons. So some of you who monitor local developments, local trends would be aware that uh, after the Honorable Prime Minister gave a call that India should become an advanced country by 2047, Vikasit Bharat as he calls. He also asked upon the states to prepare their own vision document. So we have also done this exercise. And I can say this with lots of surety because I myself led this initiative on behalf of the government, that we have done it very, very rigorously. I know of some states who have just to tick a box because the Prime Minister is asking for something, let me produce something and show it to him. Our rigor, our depth is far more. And one of the key elements, I mean, you can look up this document, it's there on the website. But one of the key elements on achieving everything which is there in our vision document is how Hyderabad becomes a far more livable city, a city which attracts investments, which supports high level talent, which creates new economic opportunities, also promotes economic opportunities which have a strong potential but which have not been hitherto implemented. For example, the tourism potential of Hyderabad, the sports potential of Hyderabad, and so on and so forth. So the vision document, as I said, speaks about multiple interventions, but at the core of a majority of those interventions, barring maybe the rural and agriculture kind of recommendations which I've made, everything can be connected to how Hyderabad shapes up like a great city. The second very important development happening these days is that in the past, on so many occasions, I myself have been in the government for more than 3 decades now. And on various occasions, even when there was a good idea, there was always this kind of a dark curtain that there are no funds available. I mean, there are things which we want to do, which can be done, which must be done, but there's no money to do anything of that sort. So again, I'm happy to share with you, and because I'm involved in the municipal governance, I'm the special officer for the three corporations, and there is a very unique kind of an arrangement which is called Cure. Uh, we don't have any paucity of funds. We have, in fact, identified new ways of mobilizing resources, largely through bonds, by raising bonds. And the first priority that we want to give to these kind of revenues that we raise is to improve traffic. In fact, when I was given this responsibility about 7 months ago, the Chief Minister told me that there are two issues with which I'm completely dissatisfied about the metropolitan area. One is sanitation and one is traffic. And it's a very nice coincidence that we are discussing about traffic. Just till an hour ago, I was in a very immersive discussion related to sanitation also, solid waste also. So we are making good progress. The Chief Minister is backing to do things which improves the traffic is very much there. The third important development happening simultaneously is that we used to have a body which is supposedly meant for bringing convergence amongst all the players and providing integrated solutions, etc. But it was kind of a body which did not have much teeth, it did not have much capacity, inner capacity, etc. It was largely confined to amongst the officials. It did not seek guidance from experts or people who have deep understanding about these matters. This is called HUMTA. This organization has been completely revamped. In fact, just the other day, 3-4 days ago, we had a first meeting of the core HUMTA group, which is called as HUMTA, Hyderabad Urban Metropolitan Traffic Agency, Authority. And coincidentally, Prashant was also invited for that discussion, and he also got a sense about the way we are trying to pose uh, uh, these issues, etc. Now, if you look at I mean, I'm sure other panelists will comment. I also will get a second chance to intervene again. But if you look at the gamut of traffic issues, they can be put in 5 buckets. The first bucket is how do you improve, how do you bring engineering solutions to some of these traffic issues? For example, we have seen many roads, flyovers, which are wide till a point, suddenly become narrow, and then the whole traffic. There is some gradient which brings lots of water. Coincidentally, today also, right now also, it is raining, and I'm sure there'll be dozens of points across the city where water would have stagnated. So, what are the engineering challenges and engineering solutions that can be provided to improve the road geometry and the road engineering? The second very important aspect is that what is the responsibility, as was pointed out, to bring more and more public transport options, and how do you introduce behavioral change to make users use the public transport? Currently, all of us know that if you profile the average user of a metro rail or the RTC buses, they are skewed towards a particular section, mostly students, upper middle class, working class kind of people use. The people whom you see there using their cars, etc., they are not the typical users, which is not the trend in many other developed cities. In fact, in many other countries, even the ministers take metros and public transport, etc. So first of all, how do you improve the coverage of public transport, and how do you make everyone patronize it, and what else needs to be done? We do know that currently the public transportation here, including the metro and MMTS, suffers largely from what is called as the first mile, last mile challenge. And 4 days ago, when we had our HUMTA meeting, we discussed that in length and what needs to be done and how quickly do you need to do that. So that is the second important bucket on a whole range of issues related to public transport. The third very important aspect relates to non-motorized transport or pedestrians, cyclists, and many of you would be aware that Honorable Supreme Court very recently pronounced a very seminal judgment that right to walk is also a fundamental right covered under Article 21 of the Constitution. So what do we do? In fact, I remember many years ago, I used to work in a, just as my colleague Karnan is the GHMC commissioner, I used to work as Huda vice chairman. So this was almost 20 years ago. And in those days also, this issue used to be discussed, that how can we make the city more pedestrian friendly, etc. But we have not been able to make enough progress. So how do we kind of see the possibilities of implementing the Supreme Court judgment in a way which balances the requirements of a pedestrian, of a cyclist, and so on and so forth. And again, there are a bunch of decisions to be taken, a bunch of activities to be implemented on the ground. So sometimes we do have pedestrian walkways, but they are obstructed. So how do you handle those obstructions? Sometimes the width is not enough to allow cycling lanes also in some of the smaller roads. Smaller roads or narrower roads is not a very unique thing to Hyderabad. In many other cities, these issues have been handled through one-way systems, that the road may be narrow, but you can only travel in one way. Therefore, the whole carriageway is available to the traffic and so on. So how do you bring these kind of aspects in our decision making and implementation? So this is the third important bucket related to pedestrians and other forms of non-motorized transport. The fourth very important aspect relates to technology. We don't speak about it. We don't kind of appreciate it much. But in my opinion, a large number of challenges that we face in Hyderabad can be solved with technology. As was introduced by Natasha, I worked in the tech sector for more than 10 years here, and I have seen hundreds of important solutions, smart solutions, which can which can supplement the work which we all do to improve the mobility, to improve, let us say, parking, traffic signaling, synchronizing of signaling, giving alerts to motorists, and so on and so forth. And the last part, the last bucket is on integration, convergence, policy. In fact, 4 days ago when we were meeting, we did discuss about the measures which have been taken in other cities, for example, odd even, and things like that. So there is a role for all these things also, and also convergence amongst agencies. So for example, if you have to provide first mile, last mile connectivity, the metro itself will not be able to do that. Someone else has to do. Someone else has to bring smaller vehicles, electric vehicles, and so on and so forth. So these are the main 5 buckets for which we need to understand what will work in Hyderabad, what needs to be done. And if it is so obvious, why has it not been done for all these years? Are there some fundamental structural barriers or issues? And then we need to explore solutions together. But as I said, this is the best time in possibly our lifetime to get these ideas implemented for a variety of reasons, which I already mentioned. There's no shortage of funds. There's a commitment to make Hyderabad livable. In fact, while today's discussion is largely on commute and traffic, I can share this with you. I know that I'm taking a longer time, but since I know the caliber of this audience, I want to make one more point. So for the last 4 months, I'm personally spearheading an important exercise on how can we improve the livability of Hyderabad further. So as Natasha pointed out, when Hyderabad is compared to other Indian cities, let us say Hyderabad versus Bangalore, Hyderabad versus Gurgaon, Hyderabad versus Chennai, people unanimously share that Hyderabad is a better city. But when you start comparing Hyderabad to other global cities, and I'm not speaking about New York or London or Dubai, even let us look at some of these South Asian capitals like Jakarta, Manila, Singapore, etc. Manila, Jakarta are good reference points. We should be candid to admit that we fall short. They are far more livable than we are. So over the last 4 months, we have done a very detailed exercise, and we have identified 100 things which can be done to improve the livability of the city. And this 100 things is not a expression. This is a precise number. जैसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं 100 चीज़ें करेंगे, but here 100 चीज़ें means precisely 100 things which need to be done, which cover a range of things. So how to make the city more pet friendly, how to have more public libraries, how to have toilets every, let us say, 150 meters, which are just as the toilets are there in an airport or a five-star hotel, what can be called as aspirational toilets. How can we have that? How can we promote night economy? How can we have more playgrounds? See, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I know of so many people whose, if they had children, particularly young children, there would be no other thought in their minds except to make them study from morning to evening, then go to this coaching, do that tuition, do some internet study. But fortunately, the trend has changed significantly. Now children are encouraged to go and play, and and some of them develop proficiency in sports also. So how do you have more playgrounds in the city? So there are 100 such things which we want to do, and very soon we have prepared a small dossier mentioning these 100 things, but we are just developing some little bit of refinement, and I'll place it on public domain. So please do look at that as well and give suggestions on what we need to do to implement all of them. And again, 100 is not something which is cast in stone. 100 is a good kind of a, as a communication expert, you will agree that telling things like 100 things to do, etc., are more catchy. But if 100 becomes 102 or 104, it will not be our effort to delete some 4 other things and still push it back to 100. So that is what. So I just kind of explained to you the framework, the context. I have not gone into these 5 buckets and what needs to be done and all that. That can be done at a later time. But this is how our understanding in the government is about the traffic challenges.
Hi. Thank you so much, Jayesh. It was really useful and encouraging for a lot of us to hear that the government is looking at specifics on how to improve the quality of life. Unfortunately, most of us are not aware of most of the things. So it is indeed heartening. So can I ask Prashant, I mean, Jayesh said a lot of things about how we can improve traffic. And while he was talking about each of them, I was looking at global examples where specific things that were mentioned have actually been done by other cities, Singapore, New York, Amsterdam. So can I request you, Prashant, to give us a couple of global examples on how other cities have done it, and Prashant has a lot of examples, and you can of course reach out to him to get all of them. For reasons of time, maybe just 2 or 3 cities which covered some of the points that have been discussed, because that is what we are aspiring for in Hyderabad.
Thank you, Natasha, for having me here, and I'm really happy to see a large gathering. I was kind of not sure. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. So I was a little apprehensive because of the rains and the Hyderabad traffic. I don't know how many people will come, but thank you very much for all of you coming here for this session. Natasha, I think, it is worthwhile to speak about the global examples, but even before I start with the global examples, I take a cue from Jayesh sir, in the sense that he's saying, you see, I want to put perspective before this, and how the global cities have addressed this is important. Come in the front, and so you see, I feel that I keep interacting with various people, not just in government, but even citizens. I think there is some lack of understanding. It is easy for everybody to say that we want public transport. And in fact, when you see New York, Singapore, and various other cities, the key difference between Hyderabad and those cities will be the public transport infrastructure. But I want to start this conversation in a very counterintuitive way that today, let us say, if the government decided to bring 10,000 more buses, I'm sure there are many people here who think buses are the problem. How many of you think buses are the problem on the road? No, my question is specific. I understand what you're saying. Even I believe that they are a solution. But there are people in the audience who will think that they are the problem, in fact. And there are some hands who raised. You see, when the infrastructure is not designed the right way, what actually is a solution becomes a problem. Water is good for health. But if you drink the water in the wrong time, it can affect your digestion, right? Same thing happens. Right now, we have not provided the right kind of infrastructure and the right kind of policy environment, because of which buses appear to cause congestion. And I've heard this so many times every day because I'm an avid bus user. I have traveled. How many of you traveled here by bus? Wow. This is very encouraging. Thank you very much, indeed. So I was hoping for a very small number. But anyway, but anyway, this is great. This is encouraging. So you see, the reason I'm saying is, 15 years ago, even I thought, in fact, I was always saying that we need more buses, we need a metro and everything. But today, the nature of the problem is so acute that even if we bring more buses, they're going to be stuck in congestion. And this is exactly where these global cities have started addressing the problem. They did not really start with increasing public transport. They started with reducing private vehicles. We need to create more space right now for people to walk, for people to cycle, for buses to move, the existing buses to move. So right now the buses typically travel about 180 kilometers in a day. Hyderabad buses, 160 to 180. Just to make that number bigger, RTC is running buses early in the morning at 4 o'clock and then night 11 o'clock, just to make up the numbers 200, 220. But if we are able to reduce congestion on our existing streets, suddenly these buses can actually operate 240 kilometers a day. So which means that I'm increasing the bus capacity by 25% without investing a single penny on public transport. They are going to be on time because they are not stuck in congestion. So this is the approach, Natasha, what the global cities have tried. So I'm not saying that we go with the same policies, but the approach. In 1975, when Singapore experienced acute congestion, the first thing that they did is the rule of economics, because it's a capitalist city, capitalist country. What is the first thing in economics that we learn? Where there is demand, what happens to profit? Where there is a lot of demand, what happens to the profit? Increases. Where demand is low, then you're in losses, right? Now in Hyderabad, do we have excess traffic or less traffic? Excess. That means that the government should be making a lot of money out of traffic, right? Yes. But I would want to ask, sir, are we making profit out of transportation or are we making loss?
That is not the
Right.
correct understanding. The correct understanding, in my opinion, is that there is more supply here. It's not that there is demand for traffic. There is more supply of traffic.
So what we have done, what the global cities have done, is when they saw traffic congestion, they increased the cost of traveling by private vehicles, right? Now, I know many people in Hyderabad think that they are paying a lot of taxes, road taxes and everything, but I can get those numbers. I mean, I think the state of Telangana today collects about 7,000 crores per year in road taxes. But that is not even sufficient for the infrastructure in Hyderabad, frankly speaking. So what the global cities have done is made travel by car more expensive, so that they brought about a behavior change where people start carpooling, right? once people start carpooling or once people defer their travel to an off-peak time, suddenly you will see that the congestion goes down. And suddenly you will see that the walkability improves, the environment improves, the predictability of bus improves. So this is the approach. And this is something that I want to bring in because whenever we talk about interventions, the primary focus is let's build the metro. Now, Singapore has a fantastic metro, New York has a fantastic metro. But to bring metro to Hyderabad is going to take the next 10 years. It's not going to happen in the next 5 years. But do we want to wait for a solution for the next 10, 15, 20 years, or do we want to solve the problem today, is a question. How many of you want to wait for the next 20 years to solve the problem? Is that a question? You had a question or you're, okay. How many want to solve the problem in the next 3 months? And thankfully, there are more people. So that's what I'm saying. So I think the most developed cities have worked on policy. They have done policy interventions to shift the bias from private vehicles to public transport by making the cost of private vehicles more and use that money to create better public transport infrastructure. So that way, like for example, Singapore, the biggest example. Singapore spends about 15,000 crores every year on subsidizing public transport, where it collects much more than that from private vehicles. So like each, to get one car in Singapore costs about more than 1.2, 1.3 crores. They're paying 8 times more taxes than the cost of the car, right? So I'm not advocating for that, but nevertheless, the policy is a key thing to influence behavior. And through behavior is what will bring a change in the city, is the livability. So that's the point that I wanted to make. We can converse more about different cities and everything later, but I thought I would start the conversation with that. Of course, I did want to talk a lot about the flyovers and everything, but that for later.
Thank you, Prashant. Actually, this was way better than giving examples because he brought out the learnings from the cities instead of just saying Singapore did this, this, this. But the whole thing about policy drives behavior, and behavior is what will ultimately solve something which is a crisis and something all of us want solved. So I think you are in the hot seat here, and also, when we are talking about traffic, it is not just GHMC, it is also TSRTC, it is also a whole lot of other agencies that come in. It is a traffic police. But if we restrict it to GHMC, given the 30,000 feet overview that we have got, and also what other cities have successfully done to reduce congestion, what are the immediate steps? And by immediate, I don't mean next 3 months, but over the next 5 years, what is GHMC doing to help sort out the traffic problem, or rather to just make the city more livable for all of us?
Thank you. Thank you, Natasha, and thank you, Desai ji, for inviting me for this. Can you hear me now? Yeah. So, of course, the entire burden comes on GHMC because we are the owners of the road. We own the roads, whether it is in public road or in your villas or in your apartment. All the public roads owned technically by us. So, we are to regulate the traffic because we are the owners of the road. And we work in coordination with other departments in especially transport, RTC, and HUMTA. And our engineers make all the solutions for traffic solutions. Some may agree with flyovers, some may not agree with flyovers, more flyovers. But we are the person who are to take call on most of the situations. So when continue with Shant and Jay sir has told, so there is no quick solution for this. We can make some changes also, be very drastic policy level changes also, it will not give immediate solutions. So we want to give for a long-term solution, includes both short-term, medium-term and long-term measures. Most of the thing we should focus on as we incentivize more people to go for public transport. So I can rate the entire Cure area, our population is around 1.4 crores. That bus per lakh population the buses per lakh population. Because we operate only RTC buses, it's around 25 to 26 about per lakh population. When we compare with other cities in the world, whether London, it around 100. Singapore is more than 95. Our neighboring city is Bangalore is having more than 50 buses per lakh population. So please understand where the solution lies. Same flyover, same places where you have choked traffic. On non-peak hours, it's a free flow. So all this traffic can be taken care by 4 or 5 buses. So ultimate solution for this one, we have to go for massive public transport. So public transport does not mean buses only. Doesn't mean metros only. We are the only state having very good MMTS network. Of more than 90 kilometers, it covers around 44 stations. But how many persons use that? And they're one of the cheapest mode of transport in the state, in the country. 0 to 10 kilometers, they charge us 5 rupees. Hardly 60,000 people use us. Pre-COVID, it's around 2.3 lakh people users. Right now, 60,000 people use us. Of course, metro, most of them migrate towards metro. Around 5 lakh people uses metro daily. And RTC, around 35 to 40 lakh people uses daily. But MMTS having a very good network. It covers 90 kilometers. Across Hyderabad, covering 90 kilometers is not a small thing. But we will not use. Compared to other cities like Chennai or Mumbai, they use their local train in a very huge number. And they use more local train, they use the more public buses. Still, Mumbai and Chennai, somehow more denser than us. And they have a lot of problem in land congestion. Land is also very shrink there. Other side of the area, both Mumbai and Chennai having sea. But we are a concentric circle. Still, because of there is no viable public transport, whatever viable also we are not able to use it. We are the only city, we can easily compare the traffic speed. If you travel from Shamshabad to Gachibowli, more than 40-50 kilometers, within 20 minutes, around more than 100, minimum 100 speed per meter. Same from Gachibowli to High Tech, same 20 minutes will take. So we can compare speed within our city. No, the city can compare itself. So we try to compare ourselves the same, more distance, but you travel in a short time. Because of traffic congestion, we couldn't able to do that. So we have all facilities. As being Commissioner GHMC, I can tell we need flyovers. We need speed expressways. Also, we need more give importance to public transport. Sometimes people blindly oppose flyovers. I can tell the quote this picture. It's good picture by Prashant Bashu. It's done only through Google Maps. He has compared 9 to Sangeet and Lakdika Pol to Dilshuk Nagar. He tried to tell that with flyover same distance. He tried to tell that flyover without flyover was the same distance. But he couldn't able to change the one perspective of how many vehicles have moved. Obviously, more vehicles moved in TV9 to Sangeet compared to Lakdika Pol to Dilshuk Nagar. So these all perceptions we have to change. Of course, we have an issue of traffic. But traffic issues can be mainly changed only through public transport. Whatever public transport is also we are not utilizing at full level. Think about 2.2 lakh capacity of vehicles. Their MMTS is daily running around 80 trains. But hardly 60,000 people use us. So for that, what we have to do, the major problem, sir, rises first mile and last mile connectivity. That we are working on it. How to make them use more metro and MMTS. How to ensure from home he reaches the metro or MMTS. From MMTS, how he reaches his office or his commercial places. So that is the more crucial part. Government is working on it and is on a priority. Definitely all as a Hyderabadis, we all work towards that solution. And GHMC is the primary responsibility is to ensure improve the liability of the people. And major right now, as you all said, after sanitation, our major focus is on traffic. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you. Last mile connectivity is something very close to my heart because the nearest metro station is 1.5 kilometers away. The nearest bus stop is 1.1 kilometers away. So even though I want to use public transport, I have to walk a lot and the pavements are pretty bad. I mean, people have said there are too many pavement photographs taken by me. That's because I use them a lot and I keep getting hit by traffic because I have to get onto the road. So hearing that last mile connectivity is something we are going to be working on. To hear people talking about footpaths is something that is very heartening for a lot of us because we do want to use public transport. It is not as though we don't. When we go abroad, we do use public transport whenever we can. Even in cities like Delhi, my 70-year-old father-in-law actually started using the metro when it came up because it just reduced not just travel time, but the hassle of finding parking. So it is very heartening to hear that we are talking about last mile connectivity. And I will come back to some of the issues you mentioned. But before that, I will ask Anjali to talk from the citizen perspective. Of course, it is from her position as a professor of communications, but also, she's got a lot of issues which a lot of citizens are asking. So I will ask her to ask these questions before we get into the next round.
Thank you, Natasha, and thanks to Goethe-Zentrum, Amita, Urvi for inviting me here. So essentially, yes, I am coming here as a concerned citizen who's keenly interested in social justice and environmental justice. There is a fundamental question. To whom does the city belong, right? When we are making these decisions, these very important decisions on infrastructure, urban planning, who do we include in the decision-making process? Some of the consequences of developmental activities, of construction, of flyovers, some of those consequences are, this has been documented, we get more heat in the city, heat islands are formed, and who gets to suffer those heat islands? Who gets to suffer the consequences of environmental degradation? Primarily people from marginalized communities, right? When we uproot trees to widen our roads, to build flyovers, for example, a lot of people who are gig workers, who are street vendors, people who ply on the roads, who depend on the roads, not people inside their cars, but people on the roads who take the help of shades, on the pavements, on the roadside. Do we consider their interests also when we are making those decisions? How can we make our decision-making processes more participatory, more democratic? I mean, these are some of the fundamental questions that, I'd sort of request our policymakers to consider and also invite people from those associations, from informal work sector associations, to invite them in the decision-making processes. I am also kind of reminded of certain concepts and ideas posited by a few political theorists and sociologists. One is John Drazek, who from University of Canberra, and he sort of promoted the idea of ecological democracy, in which even non-human animals, the nature gets to decide how we plan and design our cities. Nature gets to decide. We also think of future generations, yeah? Not just people who are here now, but in present day decision-making processes, we think of future generations also. Another sociologist that comes to mind is Anthony Giddens, British sociologist, and he mentioned something called reflexive modernity. What that means is that whenever we are taking decisions, we always are mindful of the consequences, and we are aware of the inclusions and the exclusions. Often the exclusions are very, very invisible. Even the media doesn't get to cover that, and people are, they feel very unheard. So my request and my suggestion is to, think of all kinds of communities, people from all sections of society, especially those who do not have a voice, to be brought into the decision-making processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. And I think since we have heard from everybody, and I think all of us here are unanimous in knowing that we do want a more livable city. Traffic is just one of the issues, but from traffic come emissions, from emissions come AQI, which in the winter months because of thermal inversion gets pretty bad even in Hyderabad. And it has been proven that bad air quality takes away from the lifespan. Most of us are losing many years of our life because of the quality of air we breathe, not just in Hyderabad, but across the country. In summer, again, heat is becoming a major problem. So at some level, traffic becomes a moral problem also. It is not just that we are spending time in traffic, that we are losing productive time in commuting, but it's actually taking away from the quality of life, even of people who are not stuck in traffic. So my question really, and I'm throwing it open to the entire panel, is what next? How can we together as government, as specialists, as citizens, work together to ensure that Hyderabad advances in a way which takes everybody with it so that we are ecologically sensitive, we have good quality of life without compromising on the advances of which we have got because of development. I mean, the last couple of years, the technical advancement, the amount of infrastructure, the amount of investment that has come into the city and the state has been very, very high, and we have a lot to thank you for it. But how do we make sure that that goes hand in hand with a quality of life? And this is actually a discussion for everybody, and I'm just throwing it open to everybody here.
So I'll make 2 points. One is to reflect on some of the points which fellow panelists mentioned. And I would like to make a very specific comment that many of these solutions that we talk about, these are not either or kind of things. I mean, we can have, as my colleague mentioned, we can have more flyovers, but we can also encourage public transport. Policy also needs to be brought in. So he spoke about buses. One of the key interventions, if you want to make buses more frequented and carry more people, is to have dedicated bus lanes. So where can we have that? That is a success story from many of the global cities. Similarly, when we speak about people who are from the working class background, whose most of their working hours is spent on streets. So it is, of course, 100% true that they require shade. And to the extent possible, we should allow trees to remain and provide shade. But under inevitable circumstances, if we are removing trees, we should not just plant or replace or relocate, but there are other solutions also. So when I mentioned about those 100 livability interventions that we are doing, one of the intervention is again to set up 100 rest shelters for the gig workers. These will be set up in 100 dispersed neighborhoods, and each rest shelter, roughly a quarter of the size of this room, will have, of course, air cooling or air conditioning, a place where they can charge their phones, because phone is a very important tool for their work, and also toilets, water, little bit of tea and coffee, vending, etc. So 100 such rest shelters for the gig workers primarily are coming. So there are multiple things to do. And nothing of it is either or. I mean, you can have all of them because of the important pressing need that these solutions offer. Very quickly to answer, what are the things which are going to come next? So I spoke about 5 buckets. I'll quickly tell you one big priority in each of these 5, which we are planning to address within the coming 3 to 6 months. So the first bucket I spoke about is about engineering solutions. Uh, Again, through lots of studies, we have identified 21 important corridors in the city where we have challenges of narrowing road width or due to gradient problems, water logging, which slows down the traffic, or where the traffic island is not designed correctly, or a free left turn is not materializing because some transformer is constructed there, and so on and so forth. So there are 21 big such problem areas specifically in the entire metropolitan area, which we want to tackle now. We have understood the solution, what needs to be done. Budgets are available. We will just be putting all of them into action. So this is about the road geometry, road design, and so on and so forth. And some important, as a corollary to this first point, some important infrastructure works also. So 3 very important elevated corridors have been designed. 2 of them leading from the Paradise Junction, one towards Shamir Pet, one towards Dairy Farm, that is beyond the cantonment area in Medchel. And the third one is from what is called as the Police Command and Control building on road number 12, from there till Shilpa layout, which is in Gachibowli. So 3 important corridors, and the 4th one is under planning, which is from very close to here, in fact, right outside, frankly, what is called as the Nagarjuna Circle, leading up to Masab Tank or through the assembly, etc., etc. So these are some important road works that we have identified, which can take a load of traffic and make the other roads less congested. So that is a priority in the first bucket. The second bucket was on pedestrians and non-motorized transport. So the immediate priority is to ensure that the Supreme Court judgment is implemented. At least we take immediate action to show that we are doing that. And one thing which we have all started, Commissioner is here and other 2 commissioners are also doing it, is to clear obstacles or encroachments on the pavements, on the sidewalks. And I don't have precise numbers, but I know for sure that all the 3 corporations in the last 20 days or so would have cleared thousands of such obstructions. But the important thing is, in the past also they have been cleared, but how do you ensure that they don't get back? And then how do you do it with a humane angle? Because many of these obstructions are also by street vendors, for whom the street is the place for work. So we cannot be insensitive towards their livelihoods, etc. So how do you find an alternative for them before you ask them to relocate? And the alternative should be such that it does not reduce their incomes or jeopardize them even by one small percentage. So that is happening. And then what you mentioned, Natasha, about broken pavements and things like that, that is being done. We are actually, again, I don't recall the precise numbers, we are developing what are called as model corridors. In each of the 3 corporations, about 30-40 kilometers has been identified to be taken up in the next 3 to 6 months. These are corridors where the road will be 120 feet. There will be no road median. There will be cycling tracks on both the sides. There will be pavements. There will be street furniture. There will be toilets. If there are spaces available, there will be pop-up stores. There will be the way you see beautiful streets across the world. So in the coming 6 months, about 60 kilometers, 20 kilometers in each of the jurisdiction. I think you have identified this inner ring road, isn't it? What is called as the inner ring road. I mean, we don't talk much about it. We only talk about the outer ring road. But there's an inner ring road also that is being planned for taking it up as a model road corridor. So that is about the second thing, about pedestrians and non-motorized transport, etc. The third bucket which I spoke about is on is on public transport. So the important point which all of us discussed is about the first mile, last mile connectivity. MMTS also, my colleague correctly pointed out that the usage has gone down tremendously. But we have also identified the reasons why the usage has gone down. The first mile, last mile connectivity is also a very important thing, but the upkeep of the stations, the access from the main road to the MMTS station. So all these challenges which we have identified, we are going to work on it and ensure that we are also introducing, hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months. I can mention this as a technology intervention also, but I'll speak about it in the context of public transport, that we are planning to bring out a common ticket which will allow you to ride the metro, the MMTS, the bus, and possibly it can be used by stores also. We'll be motivating stores also. Let us say Ratnadeep. I'll ask him, he's a friend of mine, to allow people to pay for their Ratnadeep bills using that single card. So these are some of the important things which are our priority in the next 3 to 6 months related to public transport. The fourth issue is about technology. So of course, I gave you an example which demonstrates technology, but something bigger is being planned. We are already starting working with it with the help of Google, as many of you would know. Google has a large footprint in Hyderabad, but most importantly, their GIS team, the maps, the Google Maps that all of us use, that is all located here in Hyderabad. So we are working on a application, a solution, which tells us, looking at Google's Maps data, live data, on how is the traffic building up on different stretches, and what are the diversions that are possible, so that people are alerted even before they get onto that stretch where there is heavy traffic, that you can take an alternative route. So the maps will show, we can put some gantries where the messages will be displayed. So this, in my opinion, will be a very sophisticated and a very useful application of technology. So instead of adding to the congestion, you are rerouted, and then you eventually reach your destination, maybe at the same time or even earlier, and you don't get caught in this traffic. So there are multiple technology solutions. I mean, I have put together a small team which is assisting me in identifying technologies where traffic can be handled better, and for other interventions as well. But technology, in my opinion, will be a big game changer. We speak about all kinds of things, but if you ask me, if you have to invest only in one of these five buckets, which one will you do? I'll do blindly on technology. Technology. The biggest bang for the buck will come from technology. It's not to say that other four interventions are not important, but if I have to kind of bet on what will bring the biggest results, it is technology. The last item which I spoke about is about convergence. So I already told you that we have now created that mechanism called HUMTA. I mean, it was there, as I said. It's not that I have created, but I have tried to make it active again and give it meaningful responsibility to create policies. In the last meeting, we decided to work on half a dozen policies, including this bus bay, carpooling. Fortunately, because of as you know, most of the traffic typically, most of the pictures, I mean, I have not yet seen them, but if I were to see, a majority of them will be from the Cyberabad area, where more number of offices are there. And because of the rainfall going on for the last 2 months, we have been able to appeal to all the tech companies, all the facility managers to introduce carpooling, and the response has been pretty positive. In fact, we have taken 3 important decisions which they have implemented. One is that the moment you get a rainfall alert, the trains will come. If there's an 80% chance or above, you start allowing your people to leave early. Don't wait for everyone to kind of hang on. In case the alert is there in the morning itself, allow people to work from home, not even come to the office. So that is one which we are doing. Similarly, how do you regulate school buses and other institutional transport? We have found some solution there as well. And the importance, so even if you work from home, I mean, even if a tech company allows everyone to work from home, some number of people have to be brought to office. No company can say that no one need to come. So those minimum number of people who have to be brought to the offices, can the office car go and bring them in a pooled manner? So some of these decisions which have started showing good results during the heavy rainy days, we want to now make this normal. So some policy reforms are happening, integration between all these agencies. This is a very common criticism about the civic administration of our country, that there is a multiplicity of agencies, there's no convergence, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and so on and so forth. So this particular arrangement which has been made in our city, which is to create a separate position of cure and giving me this responsibility. So this is the work which I do. I coordinate between all the agencies, I connect all the dots, I bring convergence, and very promising initial results are there. I'm not claiming that in 7 months I've changed the face of Hyderabad, but at least the institutional mechanism that we have introduced, that is definitely bound to give very good results. And as I said, we are already rated as one of the most livable cities in our country. I can guarantee to you that in the coming 2 years, all these 100 interventions that we have identified, these are not interventions which will require 5 years, 10 years, 20 years to implement. In fact, there is no intervention which requires more than 2 years. A majority of them can be done within 6 months to 1.5 years. So short turnaround, and I'm sure we will see visible improvements. You just need to kind of back us, support us, continue to give good ideas, evangelize whatever we do, contribute to behavioral change. That is the most difficult part. Constructing a flyover is not at all a challenge, but how do you encourage people to think about there's a very common phrase that you are not stuck in the traffic, you are the traffic. So how do you make everyone understand the meaning of this particular phrase, that you are the traffic, you are not stuck in the traffic. So these are some of the thoughts which I wanted to convey.
Thank you. So I thank you so much. A lot of it is what we have been wanting desperately to hear, and it is good to hear it. Can I request Anjali and Prashant to just
Yeah, so
react?
one quick point. We are not the only residents of our cities, of our neighborhoods. KBR Park, for example, or Kancha Gachibowli, for example, they are home to at least 150 species of birds and so many more, animals, cobras, porcupines, pangolin. So it's their home also, right? So any development project that we take up as a city, I wish the administration would show a serious commitment to the environment impact assessment processes. That's very, very important, so that we don't invisibilize the non-human species. Yeah.
Given the opportunity and given the conversation, there are some things that I feel are important to say. There are many notions that we build, both as policymakers, as politicians, as common people. I think it is data that helps us go from perception to reality. I think that is the more important thing that needs to be done. Like, for example, I just heard that the volume of traffic that goes through Sangeet on the Begumpet Road is more than that goes to Dilsukh Nagar. I don't have the numbers, but I think it will be worthwhile to actually check and count and then do it. In terms of vehicles, it might be more, but vehicles are a consequence. It is the people who are traveling. If we count the number of people, the throughput on the road from Lakdi Kapur to Dilsukh Nagar will be probably more. And that is what we want. So it is the space efficiency. Everything, it is about efficiency. So if we are able to throughput more people, then the problem is solved. So that is one thing. And second, also Jayesh sir had mentioned, and this is a common perception, right? I keep hearing a lot of times that, okay, we are building the flyovers, but we can also improve the public transport. Unfortunately, there is a flaw in that logic because every time that we build a flyover, that permanently erases the possibility of improving public transport in that space. You need to be a passenger to know that because every time you take bus stops are always closest to the intersection within 100 meters, right? The moment we build a flyover, we are letting the private vehicles fly over at a higher speed and my bus becomes slower because it cannot take the flyover. And if it takes the flyover, then I'm missing the passengers. So I go down. And once I go down, that means that my bus is slower than the private vehicles. There itself, I have, Anjali talked about social justice. That justice is gone. But nevertheless, the other problem, once a person gets down the bus, they are not always using the same side. When we go on a vehicle, we just take a next intersection or a U-turn and come back and park. Bus passengers don't do that. Bus passengers, once they get down, they have to go on either side of the street. The moment we build a flyover, that access to the other side is gone, which means that all the people who were using the bus before on that road will not use. So this thing about the number of people using the bus has reduced in Hyderabad is not because people don't want to use the bus, because there is a flyover built. That means that they cannot access the bus in that space at all. And about the MMTS also, this is also, some corrections are required because we go with perception. Like MMTS had 2.3 lakh, as you rightly said, and I think the numbers are actually much more, but many people were not taking tickets. So, it's a good thing. People who cannot afford tickets also should be able to travel. So that 2.3 lakh ridership was when there was no last mile connectivity, right? So then we have to identify that if the 2.3 was achieved when there was no last mile connectivity, why are we identifying last mile connectivity as the problem today? If I agree that if the 2.3 was continuing and it was not increasing, then I say that, okay, last mile connectivity would solve the problem. But that is not the case. The number of MMTS services have reduced drastically. And the punctuality of the services has gone down drastically. The app that is there for live tracking of MMTS is publicized, but it doesn't work. The technology problem. So I think once we become the passenger, I think one of the biggest things that is required today is to become the pedestrian, become the bus passenger, become the metro passenger to understand the thought process. Like, for example, I'll bring again the social justice angle. The moment we build a flyover, I'm cutting down the access for all the children and the senior citizens to cross the road. Just to cross the road, I have to take an auto rickshaw. So the congestion doesn't increase just because more people are coming. The more people are actually taking vehicles because everybody who was earlier walking is now having to take an auto rickshaw just to cross the road. So I think understanding this, this is only just one side of the story. What we are hearing here is about the other angle, about what a tree does. A tree is not about just giving shade. A tree is not about just giving oxygen. There is an entire ecosystem around a tree, so which cannot be replaced with various other things. It cannot, an air-conditioned room cannot replace a tree. I think that needs to be understood. And oxygen producing, I think there was an example in Bhopal that they created these machines that will take carbon dioxide and give oxygen or something like that from solar energy. And I'm saying that that's not the function of the tree. The function of a tree is to their entire ecosystem under the ground and above the sky, above in the sky. So when we start dealing every problem as an infrastructure problem and every problem as an engineer's drawing pen and draw straight lines and curves and everything, we are missing the elements of life. And I think that is what needs to be brought in. And when we make these kind of decision making, it is important to include the people who actually practice, understand, to make those decisions. Otherwise, we keep doing things that failed for the last 20 years and then hope that it will give a different result. So I think that's the last point. And one more thing that is important I would like to just summarize is, as Jay sir said, absolutely right, traffic, we are traffic. So I think fundamentally, unless we change our behavior, we'll not be able to solve the problem. So it is not just a policymaker's problem, it is not a government problem, it is a citizen's challenge to take up. Unless we change our behavior, we cannot expect a better future. So please, 3 points I would say, just as what you're doing. If you're not able to take the bus, at least give a ride to a person who is waiting on the road. And if the bus is not coming, if in the rains especially, give a ride. It is safe. It is not unsafe to interact with unknown people. That's one. When people are crossing the road, please give way. You're anyway going to get stuck at the next intersection. You're not losing time by just rushing your way through the traffic. Please wait, allow them to cross. And the number of times these people will turn around and say thank you, you'll be amazed, because things are desperate. And if you don't stop for them, it is not that they cannot bring their vehicles. Tomorrow they'll bring their vehicles and congest your road. Be assured. Third thing, if you can carpool, there are so many empty spaces on the road. It's not that the government has to provide a bus and then I'll take it. Work with a colleague, especially for work travel and school travel, right? Education and work. For recreational travel, it is more difficult, I understand. Try to travel in groups. That's the most sensible thing to do. So these are the things that we can do. And transport is not an infrastructure problem. Transport is a behavior problem. And as long as we keep addressing it with infrastructure, we are going to fail. And my statement is always this: if you don't agree with me today, you'll agree with me tomorrow. That's all I need to say.
Hi. Thank you, Prashant. I think after this, we really don't need to discuss anything else in the panel, because we've heard what the government is planning, and all of it is very good. We've also heard challenges which need to be addressed, and I am very certain the government will be addressing those issues also, especially since we know that Prashant is working closely with the government on a few initiatives.